And since that was pretty cool, we have someone with whom I have a tremendous amount of respect for. So this is the thing, right, ladies and gentlemen? Now, as you know, we talk weekly. We specialize in our interviews, right? And if you've seen this show, make sure you tune in every Monday, 9:30 on Comcast C6 and for Rounds of Fire, 29 and 30. You can check us out on YouTube, too. So check out some of our past episodes. And, I think that those questions was an excellent transition to our guest, Miss Freda Camille. I love this young lady. Author. She writes all. We got to get our applause. Right? And so, to have and to hold, right, her latest.
Yes.
Wonderful. I don't know if you can see this, ladies and gentlemen, to have and to hold.
This would be for you. Beautiful.
The storm caused my faith.
Wow.
Wonderful, right? Let me show. Let me see.
Yes.
So they can see. Look at that. That's the one, especially for the sizzle, right?
Wow.
So let's talk
about
about
already.
all day, right?
Alone, I love this. I can't.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And you know what?
Yes.
Before we go into these books, right? Little Birdie told me that you got a dope poem. That you're dope with the bars.
She got bars. I'm
got
ready
bars.
to hear this.
So before we go into anything about
Yes.
her books, right? Her as a phenomenal author, let's go into some of your bars, man. Let's talk about this poem
Yes.
that I keep hearing about.
Okay,
There you go.
Everyone.
Talking to the mic. Make sure you're talking to the mic.
Hello, everyone.
Woo, there you go.
As we talk about my bars.
Yeah.
All right, so this poem is called He Chose Me. It is one of my favorite. It is an inspirational poem.
Oh.
It is something that God gave to me, the Holy Spirit wrote. I just am the mic that God uses.
Yes, you're the vessel.
I am
Yes,
that vessel.
Yes.
So here we go. God, you created me with your armor. You blessed me with faith and the power to endure. You equipped me with the authority to call back that which was taken, that which was stolen, all that the enemy thought he could hang over my head to cause me to feel defeated, to feel powerless, to feel overwhelmed during times of frustration and stress. But, my God, I thank you because you chose me. Me. I am the one whom you called, you chose, you separated, and you blessed. And continue to carry through the trials that brings about change. You reversed the curse in which was spoken over the lives of my mother's seeds. Clearly, you proclaimed into your spiritual realm, before I was born, exactly what I was to do, what I was to be, how my life would bring glory back to you. Glory that extends throughout eternity. You chose me to edify and exemplify, to love and submit my will unto you. Because of the test I must overcome, patience is the virtue which facilitates the disengagement of the restraints. Now that I am no longer bound to my past, I can freely walk into my future to possess my destiny. I can bring it back and walk in it until the day comes for its progress to be seen by those who are watching from afar, judging and whispering, doubting, wanting and waiting for me to die, for me to give up and believe a lie. This is what some are praying for, but I know for sure you will bless and lift me up even more. Elevate me above all my enemies. I know where to go for comfort. It is in your arms where I rest humbly. I cannot imagine where I would be had you not chosen me.
Woo! I'm about to.
You blew me away with that one.
Thank you.
Wow.
I'm about to get my happy step on. I'm trying to tell you.
Yes. That
You
was
chose me.
amazing.
Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
doubt.
And can I just say, while you were reciting that, I just saw like a play, like a stage play. And
Thank you.
wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
Dope.
That needs to be heard.
Thank you.
And that is a message. Like, That is
No doubt.
just awesome.
I love that
That's
too,
just
and we'll make
awesome.
sure that shout out to AfroPhilly.com.
Wow.
We'll make sure that we send that
Yes.
straight over so they
Yes.
can see this thing.
Thank
Because there's
you.
somebody that's going through that needs to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Thank you.
So because you
blessing.
so now that you said that, right? Let's talk about what inspires you to write. Because you brought 2 books here, and you're a phenomenal author, right? And
Thank
a
you.
good friend to the show.
Thank you.
And so, what inspired you? I mean, because clearly, when you said that poem, you was there with it, right?
Yes.
You know, you kind of like, well, that was like an out of body.
It definitely
Yeah.
is. I have to say, God speaks and I write.
Okay.
That particular poem comes from the Storms Caused My Faith. The story behind that, the backdrop of that particular poem is that I lost my mother in 1998, and I was having a housewarming party. I just moved out of her house. It was like July the 28th. And then 3 weeks later, I was having a housewarming party, and I thought I was going to be grown and be doing my thing. And then on August 22nd was the day that my mother died.
Wow.
And so the way to get through the healing process, I journaled. I've always written poetry since I've been writing poetry since I was like 11.
Wow.
But when my mom died, the Holy Spirit took over my pen. And so even when I wrote the book, The Storms Caused My Faith, I had no idea what I was writing because I wasn't the one that was writing. As I said, God wrote, God spoke, and I wrote. And it wasn't until after the book was written and it became a book, that I would go back through the pages and read what I wrote, that I was able to read the actual book. So the inspiration actually came from God. It wasn't necessarily me, myself. It wasn't Freda Camille. It was God.
Right. Interesting. So let's go back through those pages and let's talk about The Storm Calls My Faith a little bit. You know, let's jump into that in terms of kind of like what's the premise of this book and why, or what inspired you to particularly develop this book right here.
That book again was the death of my mom.
Right.
So even through the storms, it was the death of my mom was the inspiration. However, there were plenty of storms that I've been through. I was a teenage mom. I've been through depression. I was abandoned by my father when I was 13. I went through a divorce, and the good parts of the storms, the faithful parts of the storms was that after all of that darkness, I found a good place and a good relationship with Jesus Christ. You know, I found myself. There were goals that I set after losing my mom. I needed to become a good mother to my daughter. I wanted to set goals. My mother was a college graduate. I wanted to be a college graduate. So I went to school. I became a medical assistant, and from becoming a medical assistant, then I became a nurse, and I became a good role model, and I wrote the book, and I wrote more books, and I just became a good person. And so this is who I am today because of the storms. You know, it built my faith. And it allowed me to stand up and say, you know, just because you go through adversity in life, it doesn't mean that you have to stay down. There's always a mountain that you can climb and you can be up. You may fall, but you can always get back up again.
Interesting. Do you have any regrets?
No. No.
'Cause it made you
I
who
would
you
do
are
it
today.
all over again.
Yeah.
You know, I would do it all again. I would still have my daughter when I did. I had her. I was pregnant at 16. I had her when I was 17. I would do it all again.
What's your purpose?
My purpose is to be the person that I am today.
Yeah.
It's to be the author. It's to be the speaker. You know, I was molested at 7. You know, it happened plenty of times. I was inappropriately touched by several different people, but through those adversities as a young girl, it strengthened me. It caused me, the storms caused my faith. It caused me to believe God. It caused me to believe that life gets better. Depression, I've been through depression. In those dark times, I wrote. Someone always used to tell me, write. No matter what it is, don't ever stop writing. There's people that come to me and say, how do I write books? How do I do this? How do I become a nurse? I just say, just do it. You know, don't stay where you are. Don't get
Right.
stuck in that
Right.
situation. You know, I lost my mom at 23. My father died when I was 30. Don't get stuck. Just move through it.
Right.
Work through it. Don't get stuck there. You know, when I was working in a doctor's office, I see young girls go through certain situations. I always tell my testimony. I remember, I believe that these situations allowed me to find my voice. I've been through situations that caused me to shut up. And even when I was a child, I was always teased. And they used to say, you talk too much, you talk too much. But I know why I talk too much.
Right.
I was supposed to talk too much because I was supposed to find my voice, and I'm supposed to speak. I'm supposed to tell my testimony. A lot of us shut up and we
Right.
never speak ever again. But I rather write than speak. But no, God says you have to use that voice I gave you. Find it in writing. Yes, write it out. But then now you have to start to speak it out because your words have power.
Interesting.
Now, was it difficult, like, just, you know, because you mentioned a lot of things that some people don't want to talk about, and especially people that were, you know, touched or molested by, usually it's somebody that's close to
Yes.
you. So how, you know, was that difficult just being able to, you know, at least acknowledge that or talk
Definitely
about that?
difficult to talk about. I didn't talk about it until I became an adult. But there was another publisher that came up with an idea to write a book, and some of us authors got together and we wrote a book together. And I was going to write my letter to my ex-husband, but God said, no, it's time to talk about this. I talk about it creatively through my poetry. See, I can hide behind my poetry, and my poetry is easy to write. But
Right.
it's when you have to write the story, it's hard to write the story. So when I wrote the story, I didn't want to read it again. And she said, you need to go back, read it, and make sure it reads good for you. And it took me like a month to go back and read the story that I wrote. But when I did that, it brought about healing. But it's now time to talk about it.
So I wanna dig just a little deeper, right? And because you're very candid and very frank, I want to go back to the first time that you had experienced what you say was inappropriate, right? One, did you know that it was inappropriate? And two, as a little girl, young girl, how did that make you feel the first time?
So when I think about the first time that it happened to me, and I just spoke about this Saturday at the Philadelphia Convention Center, we were speaking, and in the book I write about that experience. My memory takes me back to somewhere around 6 or 7.
Okay.
And in that experience, I talk about how when I remember it being told to me that I said it. I don't necessarily remember it happening when I first remembered it. But I remember that my mother told me that I told her that somebody touched me, right? But I remembered the experience of being in the hospital and being evaluated. And that was not a good experience. So I remember them evaluating me, and I remember all the details of that and that hurting and disappearing. But by the next time that I was touched again and it being actual penetration, I remember that,
Right.
which I was older,
Right.
and that was not a good experience. But by that time, I lost my voice in the sense that I could not tell because of what happened when I said it the first time. You know, because once you speak about it and the ramifications that happen from that point leads up to how you respond if it happens again.
So you, it was someone that was close to you. Okay.
The first time I was in a foster home.
Right.
So then when it happened again by somebody that was close to me, it was at that point where I shut down and I couldn't talk about it, which by the time I got into like middle school and I read I Know Why the Cage Birds Sing by Maya Angelou, I understood because I could identify with her not speaking.
Right.
So what, and you know, it's hard for me to hear things like that, right? Especially coming from a male to a female, right? And oftentimes the males are usually the aggressors or the victimizers, right? And so I can't rationalize in my head why any man would want to do that to someone, because I had certain experiences in my life, and people who are related to me that have went through certain things, right? That was very abusive, right? And so for me, it's just, as she grows, right, and as you have grown, right, what would you say to that other little girl who are experiencing that type of traumatic, aggression and that experience, and how do you tell her to find her voice? Because we always say tell. I don't care what it is, tell, right? But what would you say, because you're actually a victim of that?
What I have said to young ladies around me is that it's not your fault.
Right.
It's nothing that you have done to cause these people to do this. Hurt people.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the biggest thing. I don't care what you wear. I don't care what you look like.
Right.
It's nothing that you're doing. That's the same thing that I've told my daughter and my nieces. It's not you. Right. It's nothing that you've done. Tell somebody. Yeah. The problem is that people don't believe it.
Right.
And we get blamed. The victims get blamed. And what I see more often is that the people that tell, like from my experience, my mother believed me.
Right.
I mean, I don't remember telling her, but she believed me.
Right.
And she acted upon it. And, thank God bless her soul. But what I've experienced, I've spoken at, it was Wordsworth Treatment Facility. And there was like a lot of young ladies that were in there that have, experienced that. And from their experience, I told them, it's not your fault. But a lot of them told, and the mothers or whomever they told, it just wasn't received well. So the biggest part is just to let them know is that it's not your fault. It's nothing that you do. It's nothing that you've said. You have not done anything to cause it, to bring this upon yourself. That's the biggest part. Yeah. And if no matter who you tell, if that one person doesn't believe, keep telling until somebody believes you, until you can find yourself in a safe place. Yeah.
And I'm sure that because they think that they are the reason that it happened to them, they don't want to say anything.
Right.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yep.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, heavy. And unfortunately, man, you know how the time flies, man. We have to jump to a little break real quick. When we come back, we coming back with the Sizzle. I don't want y'all to go anywhere, man. We coming back. Wait, Freda, can you join us on the
I can join you on the other side.
All right, this your boy Charles Gregory with the beautiful
Lauren Sizzle.
And we'll be right back, y'all.